And we had to wind up. That's what I was told. 9:30. Are you still interested?
Yeah.
Please, I'd like to ask your pardon. We don't have a monitor, so bear with us. By morning tomorrow, we'll take care of those things. First of all, I would like to thank the camp directors for allowing me to have this opportunity. And it is, when I said to Dr. Wilkinson, sir, if I see him, I'll run away. I'm not supposed to be standing here to share or anything. We have eminent speakers here, scholarly people, well versed in scriptures, and I may not be the right person. But nevertheless, what is on my heart, I have a few things that I would like to share. When you have learned something, not only from school, perhaps, if I have to narrate from my childhood, my mother was the first teacher up to 3rd grade. When she shared, a little while ago, Brother Vijay said, aren't you happy that Jesus is coming? I don't know how many shouted for joy, yes, he's coming. I still see empty pews, but nobody's excited, looks like. Jesus is coming, are you ready for him? Yes, we have to be ready for him. That's the very purpose why I have this camp retreat. Anyway, when my mom said, Jesus is coming, when I went home, I asked Mom, when are you going to stitch new clothes for me? I don't know, I must have been 4.5, 5, something like that. What was that made me think for somebody, maybe my clothes are not good enough. At the tender age, I felt I need to have new clothes to see my master. And down the line, when I went to high school, Pastor C.H. Anandraj Garu, he was my Bible teacher. And from there, when I went to Spicer, many eminent scholarly people who taught, and somebody who was so dear to me, Dr. William Johnson, Life and Teachings of Christ. Pastor Rowe and several others are there. After coming to States, I have been fascinated by some of the theological studies that are taking place at Andrews University. I attended a Gift of Prophecy seminar 2 times, and since then, Dr. Richard Davidson and Jacques Sequeras, theologian, Pastor Mike Oxentinko, and there are several who influenced me down your line in your spiritual experience. And one thing that is so fascinates me that I think Brother Vijay lit the candle. It's not that it's a Catholic tradition. I have a reason why I had the candle lit. Somebody who had written this number of books, Conflict Age series. You think there was electricity at the time to write these books? Anybody? When she wrote A Desire of Ages, Great Controversy, Patriarchs, Prophets and Kings, Acts of the Apostle. You think there was electricity? No. Somebody who had written with the help of a candlelight. Can you imagine the struggles to stay late into the night? Lit the candle perhaps, a light from the lantern, and stay late into the night, burn your midnight oil, so to say, and write those books. So my take for this evening, you have taken all the trouble to come here. A few things you should go, you should not go the way you have come. From the writings of Sister White, many may not have agreed to what she had written. Many people think several things that he had written, not in the scriptures. And today I challenge you, my friends, go into biblical text in the original language, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. To your surprise, they're already there in the scriptures. Little heed is given to the scriptures. That's why you go to the lesser light. We give little heed. This is the only word. She says, I'm a lesser light leading to the greater light. Because we don't study this, she was enabling us to find golden nuggets in the scriptures. Just a few thoughts I'll share. I have a written text. Ever since I came this morning, since I took up all this, I didn't have a single moment of rest. I didn't even touch my notes. I'm blank head in that sense. But a few things that I have retained, I would like to share. Before we do this, I would like to ask Tiffany to come and read the scriptures for us. Can anybody tell what's the theme of our camp this year? I can't hear you. Come, rest, abide. Can I have the scripture reading at this time? Tiffany not only brought her mom, but she brought Jennifer from all the way. What is your hometown? Shenandoah. I think 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
If you can open your Bibles to Mark 6, 7 through 13. And he called the 12 of himself and began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them power over unclean spirits. He commanded them to take nothing for the journey except a staff, no bag, no bread, no copper in their money belts, but to wear sandals and not to put on 2 tunics. Also he said to them, in whatever place you enter a house, stay there till you depart from that place. And whoever will not receive you nor hear you, you depart from there, shake up off the dust under your feet as a testimony against them. Assuredly I say to you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. So they went out and preached that people should repent. And they cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick and healed them. Also Mark 30 through 32. And the apostles gathered to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while, for there will many coming and going. They did not even have time to eat. So they departed to a deserted place in the boat by themselves.
Amen.
Thank you, Tiffany. As we have heard this passage, why do you have to come aside? You have been working really hard, very seriously hard. You really need that rest. passage, we find that Christ had sent them on a missionary trip, so to say, and they worked really hard. How much did they work? They have no time to? What did it say? Eat. But it said, don't take any food. Did we read that? In the beginning, he said, don't take any food. But here he says, no time to eat. How do you reconcile that thought? Anybody? Any answer? They have no time to eat. Actually, he told them, don't take food. And now he says they have no time to eat. What's the meaning? Have you noticed? It is in parenthesis. Meaning it may not be in the original text, isn't it? So some of these golden nuggets, unless we carefully watch. Anybody has a revised standard version? And from your iPhone, can you read Daniel 12:4? Anybody has from your text? Anybody has? Daniel 12:4, revised standard version. Nobody? Daniel 12:4, it says, knowledge will increase. Isn't it? Anybody revised standard version, what do you find?
But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Then you shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase.
Which version is that?
RSV.
Revised standard version.
Yeah. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Then you shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase.
Knowledge shall increase. In the new revised standard version, it says, evil will increase. How come evil will increase? You know, the Hebrew character, if it's a right angle, that is knowledge will increase. If there's a little bit of dent in the curve, that is evil will increase. A little bit of not careful thought. If I take Ezekiel 28:14, it says, the Lucifer, when he was created, he was with. That word with is not there in your translations. So how do you come to know which is the true meaning of the scriptures? So for that purpose, if I go to Sister White's writings, she says, we have in me. God has created man in the image of God. He's created not only in his likeness, but in his image. 19th century, for all the scholars, anybody who had said that God has a physical form, that is a Greek dualism. Outrightly you have been rejected. But Sister White has found in her writings, there's a two Greek Hebrew words. It says, Selim in his form, Demut in his likeness. Not knowing Hebrew language, how did she know the two meanings of Hebrew words? Scholarly people, when they dig in deep into the scriptures, to their surprise, she had written these things, not knowing the original languages. And also we find, second chapter, that when God has created, in what form they have been clothed, they were naked, isn't it? But around them, if you go to Psalm 104, there is a glory and a light. If God has created them in his glory and his light, we can conclude that Adam and Eve must be clothed in glory and light. And Psalm 104 gives exactly the creation story much more detailed way than what Moses had written. So if God has created Adam and Eve and the glory and the light. And when they had sinned, what happened? They lost that, isn't it? And made themselves fig leaves to cover themselves. But third chapter we find there is a different word when that is used for the nakedness. It says ero, which is not normally clothed like a king could have, not his outer garments, he may have inner garments. So how did she know the difference between ero and to ero, the fully nakedness? All other places that word is used, fully naked. So when you find these Hebrew words, how did she know that she could write them? If you go to 4th chapter, I think Sister White writes in the Desire of Ages, when the first child was born, they thought Messiah has been born. But there is one particular article, et. That means, with the help of, you cannot have with the help of somebody's, with the help of God. So Sister White says that promise, even though it will be fulfilled in their lifetime, they expected Messiah, but the promise tarried. So only when you go to the Hebrew original language, we find a difference. How did she know? That's the meaning. So the time is short. If you go to 10 Commandments, and I refer to Volume 1 of Bible Commentary, page 1105, there she says, there is no negativity in the 10 Commandments. When it is so clearly said, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not, is so emphatically when it says, how she can say there is no negativity. 8 of them it says, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And 2 of them in a positive way. So 8 of them when it says like a prohibition. So clearly it says, how do you tally that with the scriptures? So that depends where you start reading your 10 Commandments. If you start with the prologue, I have brought you out of Egypt. It starts with, I am the Lord your God. I am Lord and God. Can you see how the names are mentioned there? If you start there, then you don't have to interpret as a prohibition. It is a promise. I have delivered you. I have promised that you will not murder. I promise you will not steal. I promise. So one can lean towards other way of translation. It depends where you start the prologue. And simple thought like this, there's so many, going and learning from the professor, from the school, you feel like going deeper into the scriptures. Because we don't study them, we're not able to get it. And as a result of the help of a lantern, somebody who had written and studied, and God has inspired him. We call her the pen of inspiration, and the lesser light leading us to greater light. If I ask somebody, when was the last time you cried for something? Think about a time, perhaps for your spouse or for a child or somebody whom you lost. Maybe somebody's in difficulty. When was the last time you cried for somebody? Anybody? How recent as today? Surprisingly, I have so much equipment I packed and from 4 o'clock in the morning and loaded the stuff into the car, and a little while into driving I found out I didn't pack the Bible. I said all the stuff I got, the most important thing, and my usual bag where I put my Bible, it's not in that. I was feeling so miserable. Lord, this is one thing I cannot live without. I felt that bad in my heart. Lord, without this word, I cannot live. I was crying while driving. How it could happen? How can you forget your Bible? Lord, I cannot live. Sometimes children and spouse and families, parents. But without this, you cannot live at all. This is the living word, and this is only my consolation. A few months later, when I was driving, wait a minute, this Bible is packed into another bag. Oh, glory to God. So all my tears are not in vain. God has shown it is there with me. I can never forget. So my friends, this book is so precious for us. I don't know how much time we spend daily. An hour per day, perhaps, Sister White says, a minimum an hour. And somebody is so sinless, Christ, if he spent himself on the mountainside, come aside and rest. He was found himself praying. We come aside to a retreat. My friends, Jesus had sent them on a missionary trip. If you take from Luke 9th chapter, he had given all the power to do miracles and heal them and to raise the dead. And when he sent 12, what was he doing? Was he resting? He trained with 70 people. And Luke 9, it says he sent 12, and he sent 70, the 10th chapter. When they came back, they were rejoicing, Lord, in your name we did mighty miracles. In your name the evil spirits are subject. They were so rejoicing. What did Christ say? I know you're rejoicing, but rejoice for what? Rejoice, your names are written in heaven. To whom did he say that? To the 12 or to the 70? Both the groups came and they were profusely rejoicing the things that had happened through their mighty hands. To which group? To the 10 or 70? To the 12. Any other answer? All agree? No, he didn't to the 12. He says to the 70. That your names are in heaven. Rejoice. I don't know why 12 or not. Maybe Judas in the group. I don't know. Maybe scholarly people have answered. So my friends, some of this, if you pay attention to the beautiful golden nuggets that you get 12 eternally. This is a journey that we started here. And last thought, Professor has said, Richard Davidson, when he had written his doctoral thesis about the sanctuary, which is a type, a model of heavenly sanctuary. And that was a time in the 80s, the fourth crisis was there. Many professors were leaving, many people are leaving. And the church was facing a great dilemma at that time. And that was the time he published, there is a heavenly sanctuary. So when he presented doctoral dissertation, the external professor said, do you really believe that there is a heavenly? And he, yes, I believe that. That was a doctoral thesis. Well, if you believe, you should present that to Biblical Literary Critical Society. Are you kidding? At the beginning of my career, they don't even believe there is earthly sanctuary, leave alone heavenly sanctuary. How can I present? Well, if you believe, you have to present. So he did present. And when he finished his report, he said, normally, you have to give time for questioning and answers. He thought he will not give any time for questions because the church was going through a difficult time. So when he said, are there any questions? He said, every hand has gone up. That means he has to acknowledge every hand. To his surprise, everybody, when they answered, not only they agreed with his conclusion, in addition to that, they found other evidences from the scriptures. This is the heavenly sanctuary. And down the line, a couple of weeks later, he said, Spiritual Gifts, Volume 4, page 5. Sister White had written, Heavenly Sanctuary is a miniature of. How did she know the Hebrew syntax? How did she know the Hebrew grammar? A professor had written doctoral thesis. He did not come by the time to spiritual writings that sister had written. It's a divine inspiration. If somebody was taken in a vision and without breath walking around, I find that in Daniel, book of Daniel. Said Daniel, when he was in vision, he started breathing, isn't it? So we have enough of evidences. So with a little candlelight, as somebody who stayed late into the night and wrote that beautiful books, and I really cherish not only, which is a leading light to the greater light. If you read this, we don't need her writings. Because we don't read, she is a lesser light leading to the greater light. So I give an assignment for each one of you before you go home after this retreat. I have a passage that I've taken from Luke 21. It's the lady who has contributed 2 miles. And I want to take it home. An assignment, can you color code this for me as a kinetic structure? It's an exercise everybody should do. I think whoever does first, I think you have a reward. I'll give it to you. So color coding means a kinetic structure, the side walls, they match, and when you come to the center will have the same supporting the side walls. So in this passage, you will find that. So take it home tonight, maybe tomorrow afternoon. If you can color code, I have the answer sheet. Whoever completes first, give it to me. I have a $100 reward for you. So it's a challenge for you. And we talk about great controversy. Can you support from the scriptures? Not going to Sister White. Can you preach these things from the Bible, having learned? She has been heard from the scriptures. Without the scriptures, she could not have written anything. So because of lack of study in depth of Bible scriptures, we are very weak. So my friends, I encourage for all of us to spend time. This is an eternal word. This is not my normal way of preaching a sermon. I thought these thoughts can help you to spend more time into the scripture. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.